turn to the teacher. Turn to the teacher. Turn to the teacher. Turn to the teacher. Turn to the teacher.
And welcome back. I'm Mike with the Turntable Teachers, and class is officially back in session. And we are here with another guest speaker episode number 47, and I am thrilled to have my next guest. Please, everyone, give a warm welcome to Keys. How you doing, my man? What's going on?
How you doing, Mike? Glad to finally get on here with you. You know, it's definitely an honor to be on here. I'm doing great, and I hope you're doing great as well. And I'm excited. Let's get to it.
Yeah, no, I am too, man. Great to have you. Really an awesome connection that you and I had. We have a mutual friend, one of my best friends, actually probably my best friend, Danny DeCristoforo, and I know you went to school with him, and he was at Salem State.
Oh, yeah.
He was telling me all about you, and he was like, hey, I know you got your guest speaker series. I got a guy that I think would be perfect. And we came on to you tail end of last year and got you on here finally. So really excited to have you on, man, and talk about your journey as an artist and things of that nature. I guess that's probably a good place to start is, you know, where did you really start to make music, and maybe were some of like your early influences and genres that inspired you and your sound?
I mean, first of all, shout out to Dan. Yeah, I love Dan. Yeah, he's
Big
a good
shout
kid.
out to Dan.
We're really great friends in college. So, yeah, shout out to him for linking us up. Two
Absolutely.
is so, you know, early influences, genres that influenced me. I feel like I'm very, you know, hip hop. I feel like was probably like the very start. You know, the first time I really dipped into music. I mean, my older brother was writing music and definitely has like a very, you know, high level rapping ability. He was rapping, he was making music, and he was recording songs like when I was, you know, a good amount younger. I mean, I'm 24 now. When I was like probably 10 years old, I mean, my brother was making songs, and you know, he was always, you know, pretty incredible, you know, at rapping, and we started freestyling, you know, around the time that I was probably like 12 years old. You know, we used to take rides in the car, and we would just cruise around, and he would just play instrumentals, and he would just play beats, and like he would just, you know, at first I didn't really have that much because everybody's kind of like, you know, when you freestyle, it's kind of like, okay, like, I don't know if I have anything. So
Yeah.
He would kind of freestyle, you know, a lot of times he'd be like, okay, like, it's all good. Like, I'll just show you what I have to this. Or he would go off the top, or he'd show a verse. And then I kind of got more comfortable just like, you know, listening to beats and just kind of starting to flow with beats. And I started freestyling. And that was kind of really where, that was probably like the biggest inspiration to music that I had, was just, you know, listening to a lot of hip hop instrumentals. And, you know, just freestyling with my brother in the car and just like seeing him do his thing with music. And that's pretty much where it kicked off. I mean, that was like probably about 4 years. You know, I was probably 12 years old then, you know, up until the time I was 16. Once I hit 16, I was listening to the Shady 2.0 cipher. They did these BET ciphers. That was probably like 2010, maybe 2011. Maybe 2012, somewhere in that time frame.
Early 2010s,
they did a Shady.
I believe, yeah.
It was?
Yeah, I want to say it was 2011, but I'll fact check that. But go ahead, continue.
So that was the exact moment when I was like, yo, I need to write something. Like, I need to write something right now, because like that cipher was so dope. Like, that Shady 2.0 cipher was so crazy to me. Like, he had all of Slaughterhouse was in there, Yellow Wolf was in there.
Yep.
Yeah, and I was just like, oh my goodness. I was like, and that beat specifically, like that year with the BET ciphers, the beat that they put down, I think it was DJ Premier that that you know, produced that year, and he was on the turntables for that cipher, and that beat was so dope and it inspired me so much. I was like, and that was the first beat that I ever wrote to. I was like, yo, I need to write to this. I found it, I pulled it up on YouTube, and I wrote a verse to that that BET cipher beat that everybody was rapping on that year. And that was so you know, to kind of bring that back full circle. I mean, hip hop instrumentals, you know, freestyling with my brother in the car for years, and you know, Eminem, Jay-Z, you know, those Drake, you know, those were a lot of like early influences that I had. You know, my brother used to listen to a lot of D12, 50 Cent. You know, like, these are all like people that I like grew up listening to, and I was like, wow. Like, I remember I used to listen to 50 Cent like when I was like young, like 8, 9 years old. Like, I was like hearing 50 Cent, and I was like, I used to listen to his hooks, and I would be like, wow, like he writes really good hooks, but like I didn't even know enough to really know what that was like at the time, but like I just knew that it sounded good, and I was like, wow, like, you know, I used to try to like mimic 50 Cent. I used to try to like write hooks. Like when I was like 10 years old, I used to try to write hooks like 50 Cent. And like that, so that was, those are like, to be specific, those are names that were like early influences. Like I said, the Jay-Z's, Eminem, 50 Cent, like D12. Like those are a lot of guys that my brother was like often listening to, and like a lot of like more hardcore hip hop guys, like lyrical guys were like a lot of names like that were like early influences. But then, you know, as I got into high school, I kind of like, you know, I was a big Mac Miller fan. I feel like Mac Miller is like one of my like biggest influences, like to this day. Rest in peace, Mac Miller, by the way.
Absolutely.
And that I feel like he's one of the greatest ever, like my greatest ever, at least. You know, I think it's all relative, but yeah, like those are guys that I really Joe Budden too. You know, those are all guys who like big writers. You know what I mean? I feel like all those guys are like, you know, spectacular writers, and those are some of like my biggest influences.
Awesome. No, I first off want to say that I like the cool story about you driving around in your car with your brother freestyling. That's awesome. I love that. I feel like that's just like something that naturally, like, you know, it gradually or gradually, right, goes into what you're doing now, right? When you're actually having those moments and seeing some type of maybe like love for it, or even a talent at first, right? But especially with 50 Cent, man, I completely agree. Get Rich or Die Trying was the very first album I ever owned. And I remember, it was the first album I ever bought, like physically, like bought with my own money. And I was like, Mom, we need to go to FYE. I don't know if you remember any of those stores, the For Your Entertainment. Yeah, those way back when you used to buy albums and stuff, or CDs, right, with CDs. But Get Rich, I remember getting the clean version of Get Rich or Die Trying. That was one of the first like few albums I owned. And I loved 50 Cent, man. That In the Club was the very first like hip hop song that I heard on the radio, because I was at the time, you know, 10, 11 years old. You're just listening to whatever's on the radio, and especially during that time when radio was still like a thing, I guess. You know what I mean? Not that it's not a thing, but when it was more, it was more the norm, right? That you were going to be listening to the radio, and now it's totally different. It's completely changed, but. I love to Get Rich. So, how old's your brother actually? Is he? Because I'm 27, so he must be like is he around my age?
Yeah, he's I want to say he's 28 and he'll be 29, or he's 29. He's like 28, 29. I want to say.
Perfect. Yeah. So so
you guys are the same.
Right around.
Same
circle. Exactly. Oh yeah, and we obviously. I mean, Eminem was another one, right? I remember like. Just at the time that stuff was coming out, right? That, and then Encore, which you know, in hindsight, looking back, obviously Encore probably wasn't one of his better records, but like at the time, I was infatuated with Encore because that was like what was hot. Yeah, exactly. D12, I remember them. So that's really cool. But Mac Miller, man, I have to say too, like when you're talking about artist progression, right, and especially in hip hop, when you look at somebody like a Mac Miller. He really is, I think, the prime example of somebody that elevated their sound so much throughout his career to the point where he was at a level that I agree. I think he's up there as an A-list, like one of the, and I don't think the death changes that or reinforces that or anything like that. Because I know sometimes we can often say, okay, you know, when artists die, we start to hold them in a little bit higher of a light. But I just felt like with Mac, he was so influential in he always was consistently changing his sound. That's what I loved about Mac Miller so much. Another reason why too I love guys like Tyler the Creator. They never make the same album. And Mac was exactly that. So I always loved Mac Miller too. He was one of my all-time favorites as well, for sure, just because of the way he was able to evolve his sound as the years progressed. So definitely a huge Mac Miller fan myself. I mean,
just to kind of bounce off that point, like, you know, what you were saying about, like, the Encore album, like Toy Soldiers, I'm pretty sure it was on the Encore album. And, like, so that song, like, when that came out, I was, like, bodied by that song. Like, that was song, like, before I even wrote anything, that was, like, years before I ever even, like, freestyled. And I was just like, oh, my goodness, this is probably the most powerful song I've ever heard. Like, I still think about those lyrics. Like, I can still, like, give you bars from, like, that song off the top of my head. Like, I'll be in the shower. I'm like, I hear Like Toy Soldiers in my head. Like, that song was so memorable and, like, had so much replay value. It was so powerful and it was so real. You know what I mean? And, like, there was a lot of like real events that like, you know, inspired that music, and then like you can tell because like it kind of travels with you, you know what I mean? I think that's one of the probably, like Tori Soda is probably like one of my favorites. I think it's probably one of the best like hip hop and rap songs ever. Like, 'cause that it's just, it has everything.
And it's funny you mentioned that, because I think that's a song, when you're talking about Eminem's discography, because of Encore, because of sort of the bad publicity in a sense, and where he was at in his life with Encore, I think it gets a really bad rep, and people often forget about that song. And I completely agree, because I remember always watching that music video as well and being enamored by it, right? Like, just because of the way he's rapping and the pain, and I loved the vocal sample on that, and just how heightened the hook was, and with the harmonies he was playing with. So you get a song like that on Eminem's Encore, and I know he was doing more of the goofier kind of like weird, the kind of experimental stuff he was doing at the time. But you're absolutely right. A song like Toy Soldiers, classic, that I think a lot of people forget about.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, it's even like, you know, that that I think I want to say that came out in 2004, the Encore album. And
Yeah,
like to look back at that, it's like, wow, 2021, like that was 17 years ago, and like it doesn't feel like 17 years ago for me, because like that song like kind of lives with me to this day. Like, if I hear that, like, people talk about classic, and it's like, if you hear it again and it still feels like the first time you heard it, like it still gives you the chills, you still get goosebumps. Like, it still gives me the goosebumps. I have goosebumps right now just thinking about the song. You know what I mean? Like, I feel I'm like I'm in chills, like I'm freezing, like just thinking about like Toy Soldiers, and like watching like with the music video and everything, like incredible music. But
Absolutely.
you know, and Mac Miller too, like you were talking about Mac Miller, like that he, you know, I don't even think about Mac Miller as, like, I know you were pointing out how, like, you know, when an artist you know, unfortunately passes away, like, you know, they kind of tend to get looked at like in a different light a lot of times. But Mac Miller, like, you know, he's one guy I don't even like. It's kind of like I don't even look at him like he actually passed away. Like, I still listen to him and like think about his like I'm still inspired by him, like to a level where like it's almost like I haven't even really acknowledged it. You know what I mean? And like I just feel like he's so impactful, you know, and I still listen to like his older music. Like, I listen to his songs that he came out with like 2010, 2011, like as if, and I still get the feeling, you know, similar to what I was saying about like Toy Soldiers. Like, it brings me back to that place and the feeling I had from the first time listening to it back when I was like 14, 15 years old, like when I was just starting to like get into music, you know, and he was one of those people I was listening to at that time. So, you know, a lot of love for Mac Miller for sure. A lot of love.
Yeah, Kool-Aid and Frozen Pizza, that whole kids mixtape, right? The one album where Mac Miller for me it gets away from me is Blue Slide Park, and even to this day I just can't get into it. But there are just, I mean, Divine Feminine, watching movies, you know, there's just so many Faces. There's so many good Mac Miller records that are just like really just mind blowing, and even the ones he was just recently coming out with, like I loved Swimming and Circles. I thought both of those were really good, and I think Good Morning was probably my favorite Mac Miller project when it was all said and done. But in all honesty, I mean, after Blue Slide Park, I don't think there was a record that he put out that I didn't like, or wasn't at least listening to for quite some time. But what was maybe like your favorite like Mac Miller record, and why, if you had to pick one?
I mean, I found myself going back to Macadelic a lot.
Ooh.
I really liked Macadelic. Like, that mixtape like had, you know, he has a record with Lil Wayne on there. He has like Thoughts from a Balcony. I'm pretty sure it was on Macadelic. He had, I think, Loud was on Macadelic. He has a song called Desperado, which was on Macadelic. Like, those are songs that I go back and I'm just like, oh my goodness. Like, it's Macadelic, definitely like super dope. Watching movies, I really like, and then I love that you brought up Good Morning, because Good AM, because that album is another one that like I can go back and listen to it, like, you know, 5 minutes, you know, after we get off this, and like I'm still gonna be vibing to that. I'm still gonna be like head nodding to that. And when those songs come on, like Rush Hour, like I think he has a song called Rush Hour on there. Like, when that comes on, I'm still getting hyped to that. Like, that fast pace, like rapping that he was doing on there. Like, I loved how on Good AM, like he changed pace so much. Like, he would go down, he would go up, he'd go down, he'd go up, and like, and he had a mix of songs that like he gave like a lot of like real, you know, there's a lot of real sentiments that he was like putting into a lot of those songs. And he had the song Perfect Circle, like that
Oh,
song,
I'm
Perfect
so
Circle,
glad you brought that up.
Godspeed.
Yep.
Like that song, like that's one of those ones. Like the second half of that song, and like the
Incredible.
Perfect Circle, like when he's talking about like all the like the guys on, who's been on his team for years, like that song can bring me to tears. Like at any point, I think Good AM is probably my favorite too. Honestly, like Macadelic and watching movies are like right there. I think watching movies and with the sound off in terms of like the imagination of it and the creativity of it.
Yeah.
He really went to a different place with that one. I feel like, so if I'm talking in terms of that, I think that one appealed to me in like the sense of like if I want to listen to something like to really like hone in on like creativity and like really kind of get out of like a one-dimensional space, I'm gonna go listen to watching movies. Good AM is kind of has a little bit of everything. So if I want to kind of like listen to an album like all the way through, I'm gonna listen to Good AM because I have listened to that album all the way through probably upwards of 100 times.
Oh yeah, just the versatility of Good AM is incredible. I love that you brought up Perfect Circle, Godspeed, because that's one of my favorite songs on that as well. But then it's amazing when you hear a song like that on that record, and then you hear a song like the Weekend with Miguel. That's a little bit more,
Oh yeah.
like of a pop tune in a sense, and then you have some of the hard hitting like grittier songs like Break the Law with Schoolboys, like little ad libs coming in and out, and then Cut the Check with Chief Keef, and you're just like, this is all on the same album, but he somehow finds a way to make it sort of be cohesive at the same time. It was just, and then for him to put out a record like the Defined Feminine, whereas just how soulful and jazzy it was. There's that song with Ty Dolla $ign on there, Cinderella, blows my freaking mind every time I hear that one. That's like, and that's in my wheelhouse in terms of like the type of hip hop I like. But yeah, no, I think Mac Miller, he has just so many classics when you look at it, and I completely agree with you too on watching movies with the creativity of it, because he was able to take in those odd future elements and really, but kind of make them his own at the same time. So yeah, he was somebody that I didn't really expect to be a pioneer in hip hop music, but really turned out to be in the 2010s. I mean, there's no question about that. So, and Mac Miller's influence and his ability to be just an artist that can do many, many different things and wear different hats. I loved that about him. So
He was spectacular. The fact that when he passed away, I said to myself, I feel like this is somebody, like, and I've always felt like this is somebody that I knew from down the street. Because when I was growing up, like I was like 14, 15 years old, like, and when I heard his mixtape, The High Life, that was around that time. Like The High Life, he had a mixtape called The High Life, like that dropped around that time, and like I was amazed. You know what I mean? Like he has a song called Another Night. He's like,
yes.
Another Night.
Yes.
I think probably one of his best songs ever. And not saying that he never made anything better than that, he did, but I'm saying that it's what like the place that song brings me to in 2021, being that it came out like 10 plus years ago, is just unbelievable. Like I still feel that. Like the bars in there, like the things that I can visualize when I listen to that song, Another Night, is crazy. And that, I think he had a song 2009 on, I think it was on his Swimming album. Yeah, I think 2009 was on his Swimming album. I want to say that was the outro to the album, and I might be wrong on that one.
I don't quite remember.
I'm not sure of the placement of it, but I know he had a song called 2009. I think it's on his Swimming album, and I love that song. Like and it's crazy because he was able to kind of like simplify his vocals, and like he really not simplify his vocals. I shouldn't say that. He simplified his bars, and I feel like he kind of harmonized his vocals to go with the bars, and they were kind of. He kind of like dumbed down his writing, but it was in a way that worked. And he was like, get a ball with a dribble and bounce. Like he was kind of it was very relaxed. The pace that he was going at in it. And he's saying, whole team about to figure it out. We ice cold. That's what winter about. Like he kind of had that very calm, relaxed pace that went with that song, and the beat was so suited for it, and it's just like the moods that he was able to like access in himself, and then like access within his listeners, and access in someone like me or you is, I just think, is remarkable. Mac Miller was able to do everything, and I just think that it's one of the things I commonly think about is I wish I would be able to have I wish I could have a conversation with him. Like, that's like an artist that, like, I met Joe Budden once. Like, I went to a Joe Budden concert in I want to say it was 2015 or 2016. It was his last tour. It was the last tour that he did, and I was like, you know what? I have a feeling that this might be one of the, and I didn't know that it was like he was gonna stop doing music like shortly after that. I didn't know, but I was like, I have a feeling this might be one of the last opportunities I get to meet this guy. And they had the meet and greet tickets for like $100. I was like, I'm buying the meet and greet, because I just have a feeling like if I don't meet him this time, I might never get to meet him again. And I met Joe Budden, and I talked with him for like a few minutes after his performance. And I knew like all the bars like at his show, like all the songs he was doing. Like, he's another guy that like I know like most of his discography. I sat there, I was talking with him, and I was like just like naming off bars. Like, I was just like going through his bars to him, like while we were sitting there, and it was like very surreal to like experience this, because like I'm going through your bars. You know what I mean? Crazy. Like I was running back his bar. I was like, like, Joe, when you said this, like, it was just so like impactful for me. It was so like it was so inspiring for me. And and he was sitting there, and he was like, wow, like he's like, you're very well versed in the bars. And I'm like, nah, I definitely am, because I'm like, that's like one of my things. Like, when I listen to an artist, like, I'm listening to every word you say. And that's why like I like certain artists, and certain artists I don't listen to, because if they're not really like focused in what they're writing, like, and then I'm still going to be listening to what they're saying, and if what they're saying is not like, I don't think it's like on point, or like it's not really something that I necessarily want to listen to, like I won't gravitate towards it, because some music is based on different things. Like, something is more production heavy, like the beat is probably like what a lot of people are is really catching their ear, like, and it may not be, maybe they're not trying, the lyrics isn't really what they're focused on. Certain songs have different elements to them. So, but Mac Miller was able to do that, and I just feel like he was a guy that I wish I could have got to meet him the way I met Joe Budden. I really wish I would have been able to have a conversation with him.
Well, that was a really cool story about Joe Budden, for sure. And I think it's actually a good segue, because just kind of, in my research on you and the music I've listened to, and just sort of the things I've seen from you, I know you value songwriting and lyricism a lot in music. And it's pretty clear that you said you that's one of the things you look for in music. And it's so funny that, just a lot of people, like, they listen to music for different reasons. And it sounds like, the lyricism and sort of the impact that the writing can make is something that you value a lot. And I think that's something that clearly you value a lot in your music. So I was just kind of curious as well to hear, really your start in writing, and how you kind of got into writing, and how that maybe transformed into songwriting. Were you always just a songwriter, or were you kind of writing different things, and then it sort of just kind of naturally went that direction?
So it's interesting, because I was actually, so I went to Salem State University, and I was like, my major was also based on writing.
No shit.
So that's kind of, that kind of happened, like, started to pan out after the fact, because like I decided I was going to go to college after I started writing music. But it was interesting how like that, my college major is centered around writing. Like, I was a journalism major. Oh, so wow. That's like 100% like a writing thing. It's a writing field. And so that, I feel like, kind of was wrapped with like with writing music. And because I started writing music like 2012, I decided I was going to go to college in 2014. So, I was studying writing. At first I was a professional writing major. So I was studying writing, and then, I was studying editing, and then I was studying journalism. So I'm so like, I feel like I'm rather well versed in like the English language, and like grammar and punctuation, like those types of things is so big for me. And I feel like that was able to intertwine with my songwriting. And, at first I was just writing like one verse, like, to answer your point more directly, I was just writing like a verse here, a verse there, like to a beat, because like I said, my brother was making music, and I was just like, he was like, you want to write a verse on this song? He was like, I'm going to do this beat, and like, you fill this other space, like there's 2 verses or there's 3 verses, whatever. I'll do 2, you do 1, or I'll do 1, you do 1. And, one of the first beats we ever did, funny enough, was Lucifer by Jay-Z. That was one of the first beats I ever, like, I didn't write to the beat. I just wrote the verse, and then I just, like, kind of matched. I was able to just, like, fit the verse on the beat. And we did, like, a remix to Lucifer by Jay-Z. That was one of the first beats we ever, first, like, 2 or 3 beats we ever did. And so I was writing, like, verses at first, and it transitioned into songwriting in 2013. That was when we did like a mixtape in 2012, and then I had a major surgery in 2013, and that is really where I like transitioned into songwriting. It was like after that, like after I was in the hospital for a couple months, and like there was a lot of like physical rehabilitation and things that I had to go through in that time, and that was when when I came out of that, my mindset on life was just so much different. And I feel like my whole, like, aura was different. My whole, like, the person I was not the same. The person I became was not the person I was before. Like, I feel like my interests were different. Things that caught my eye were different. Music that I listened to changed drastically. Like, I transitioned into very different music. Like, nowadays I listen to, like, hundreds of different genres. So, like, I really developed, like, my, like, catalog as far as that. But, I really became a songwriter, it transitioned into songwriting around 2013. I came out and started writing like full songs, with hooks and things like that.
So first off, that's a really interesting story to getting into it. And I'm actually an English major myself. I teach English.
Oh, really?
I just got a graduate degree actually in education and English. So that is, so I'm a writer myself. Yeah. So
wow, that's an interesting point that we kind of have like that parallel. That's really dope.
Yeah, and I'm the same way as you. Like I really value song like lyricism as well. Like lyrics for me is what got me into a lot of hip hop and really all music. Like because like you said, the years have gone on, and even in my younger years, I really liked a lot of different kinds of music, and I was a big fan of Elton John because that was one my mom was playing constantly, and he's a fantastic songwriter, obviously, as a musician more or less, but Fleetwood Mac. They're just very, very different, artists and bands and acts that I was listening to that, the lyrics were a big deal, and hip hop was the same way. That's what reasons why I gravitated towards an Eminem, early Kanye West, OutKast. I always felt like had something to say. Like J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar. There's in my later years, right? There's just artists that have something to say was always a thing for me.
I just want to point out, I love the fact that you brought out OutKast. Like you said, how you listen to like a lot of OutKast. Because my brother is actually like probably one of the biggest OutKast fans like ever.
I would get along. I would get along with your brother. He and I would get along very well. He loves Andre 3000, and just like OutKast, like whole catalog. He's a very big fan, and that was one of those were guys that I grew up listening to too, and I'm glad you brought it up because I forgot to mention them. Like that was a huge influence as well, because that really put me on to like Southern rap, and like Southern rap is big in my overall, because one of my like. T.I. is one of my favorites. He's like one of the GOATs to me. Like T.I. is. Oh yeah.
I think he's like God tier. Like they put these. They put Jay-Z. Lil Wayne. When Lil Wayne came out with the Carter 3, he had the song Mr. Carter. You know what I'm gonna say? Mm-hmm. He had the song Mr. Carter, and I think it was the end of his last verse. He said, "And next time you mention Pac," I think he said, "Next time you mention Pac, Biggie, and Jay-Z, don't forget Weezy Baby." Like. And when he said that, like, first of all, like, that's totally valid, because I think Lil Wayne is up there with those guys. Also, I think T.I. is up there with those guys. So that's what I was trying to pull that into when I said that. That was why I made the reference, because but that OutKast influence, like, really put me onto Southern rap. And like Ludacris and T.I. specifically are like two guys who really, I mean, Ludacris like very like punchline heavy rap like that, and I love battle rap. Like I watch battle rap like a lot, and like that kind of, and that's very much based around lyricism and writing.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's another thing that I feel like has intertwined with my songwriting, is because a lot of my songs, and I notice it to this day, even like my, you know, single that I just dropped like a couple weeks ago, even in that song, like I have, you know, double and triple entendres. Like I don't even notice them sometimes that are in my bars. And like I feel like it's so, all these things kind of like you put them in a blender, and it's kind of just like that's what you get. You know what I mean? Like T.I. had like a lot of aggression, like conviction in his voice, like believability, and just like the things he was saying. His storytelling was incredible. You know, Ludacris had that punchline heavy rap, like really put me onto the lyricism, and like, you know, kind of like lining up like this word with this word in another bar, and you're kind of like, you know, kind of like crossing out, you know, all these words are like kind of coming together, like, you know, 4 lines later. Like Ludacris was very much like that, and Eminem is very much like that as well. But I'm saying like in terms of the Southern rap, like OutKast really kind of opened me up to all those guys, you know, because hearing you know, Speaker Box, you know, hearing that like back in the day, like that really kind of opened me up to those people, and no, not people, but those artists. And, you know, Ludacris and T.I., like those were two guys who really, really inspired me a lot.
Like if you were to like basically tell me like I can only listen to one artist the rest of my life, it would be OutKast. I swear to God, because I love them. They're like, OutKast was really the entity that showed me too that like, because when I heard 50 Cent, right, like that, like I was hearing In the Club and Get Rich or Die Trying, I was like, oh, okay, like, you know, when I saw the G Unit sort of brand and just sort of their aesthetic, I was like, oh, okay, that's hip hop. I didn't realize what else was out there. OutKast gave me a completely different perspective on what hip hop could be at, you know, age 9 and 10. So I was listening to, you know, jazz influences, right? Like Marvin Gaye, Stevie Wonder. Like, I'm not saying that that's like or, you know, jazz, like Kenny G, like Luther Vandross. Like, these were all artists that like I was listening to growing up, and I never thought that that type of music could be in hip hop, that those two made sense. And Speakerbox Love Below is actually where I also started with OutKast, and then I went backwards because obviously like we were too young at the time to like really be heavily invested in, you know, ATLians and Aquemini and Southern Playlist of Cadillac Music and Stankonia and all those different, you know, albums that were so just crucial to the OutKast, you know, discography. But
oh yeah,
even another guy too, Big K.R.I.T. on my wall over here. I don't know if you're a big K.R.I.T. fan, but he is one of my favorites right now in the modern era, specifically in the Southern rap, because he's another guy that like he could be a slam poet, I think, honestly. Like, I even saw that he came out with, like, meditations recently. Like, I could listen to Big K.R.I.T. He's another guy that I could listen to all day long, just listening to the way that he's able to, you know, flow and his writing and his music, and how just introspective and very relatable that Big K.R.I.T. is. I think that K.R.I.T. and OutKast, you know, I think are guys that, you know, really give Southern rap a total feel. I think that Southern rap often gets that like a little bit of a not bad rep, but it gets the rep of like, oh, it's just kind of you know, Southern swang and noise and you know, cool, crazy. Which is not the case at all, crazy, right? And say. You know, yeah. So there's artists like that really like bridge those gaps and show that there is a lot of, you know, just a lot of versatility in different places of the country, specifically when you're talking about hip hop. But yeah, man, I huge OutKast stan, no question about it. I was huge OutKast stan.
My brother loves Big K.R.I.T., for the record. Like, he always kept playing Big K.R.I.T.
Let's go, man. Yo, we would get along. Yo, you know who's a big fan of Big K.R.I.T. as well as Danny. Danny loves Big K.R.I.T.
Oh, yeah? I think Big K.R.I.T.'s dope, too. I think he's dope, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, this is like one of my favorite albums of like, I actually just listened to this the other night. I felt like putting it on. I turned it on and I found myself playing it all the way through. Forever's a mighty long time, but there's just so much of his discography that I've just been so enamored with as well, because of he gives me a lot of the OutKast feel, like their storytelling, really. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. Like when I listened to him, I think like the first couple times my brother played him, like I thought it was one of those guys. Like I was like, yo, is that 3 Stacks? Like, who is this? Like, is that like I thought it was like, because like the way his voice sounds, I was like, he definitely, you can tell he has like a southern flow, and like he has like his vocal sounds like this is southern rap for sure. But which is not a knock, you know what I mean? It's
no,
dope.
no.
And I thought it was one of those dudes. I was like, yo, like, is that Andre? Like, who is this? And he was like, oh, it's Big K.R.I.T. I was like, oh. It's like, okay. I was like, all right, like, and I think he's dope. I need to dive more into his discography myself, but my brother always plays him, like, when we hop in the car. Like, he's like, oh, you gotta listen to a Big K.R.I.T. album, and, like, I think that's one of the guys that, like, is gonna bring that southern rap. Like, he's one of, like, the next generation of, like, southern rap to bring that forward.
Oh, 1,000%. He's already done that and more, but I mean, I'm so obsessed with his music. Like, just he's one of my all-time favorites right now, and I just love the way he's able to command with his voice and his lyricism over a hook. And he has certain songs too that literally could be read as like spoken word. I mean, he has a song on one of his old mixtapes that is I can't remember now, the name of it is escaping me right now, but where he's very much just kind of coming in and sort of just over a very like lo-fi beat, and he's just kind of spitting his like almost, it sounds like a poem really, and it's just so incredible, guys like that, and so I think you would appreciate his stuff a lot, like some of his older stuff too, because of the songwriting and the storytelling that he's able to convey in his music. But I definitely wanted to ask you as well, like, what do you want your music specifically to say about you? Like, what messages do you want to convey in your music?
So I think like probably one of my like most central points of my music is, okay, so when I mentioned before, like I touched on this a little bit. So when I had like a major surgery in 2013. I actually had a brain surgery in 2013. After I came out, after I luckily survived that and came back from that, it changed like my whole aura, like my whole like being was just different. I could feel it, like I was just noticeably different, like in every way. And like the things that attracted my eye were different, like my interests were drastically different, just a lot of things like that my mind was attracted to, and the things I would think about, the way I would look at things, like the things I valued were all different. And one of the things that I feel like really became like an important thing to me after that time was just like genuine behavior, just like what I would call realness, real. Like I have a song, Say Real, like real respect. I say real is respect, loyalty, genuine behavior, like sincerity, consideration, like all these traits, and all these like adjectives to describe what I call like someone who's real. And like that is something that I experienced, like, a few people that I wasn't necessarily friends with at that time. The love that they showed me, like when I needed it, because I didn't have I really didn't have anybody like, coming to visit me. Like I couldn't like walk and things like that. So like that was kind of a thing that it was tough. But like I had people coming to visit me, and some of these people like weren't necessarily like people I was close with. The people I was close with really didn't come through for me. The people that I wasn't close with started to come through for me, and it was I valued it in a different way. Like from that point forward, like any friend that I made, I just valued them so much more. And like it was my respect for them, and my connection with them, and like my interest in this like devotion to like any friendship or connection that I made was so like intensified. I feel like my attitude towards people was just a different way. And I was just I went about that in a completely different way. And I feel like my music, it became like that. Like my music started to become about, very real life scenarios. It became about things that I had been through, the way my life was. When I first came out, I kind of was like more abstract. Things were, because I had to like teach myself how to write again. Like I swear I had to teach myself how to write again. Like I couldn't like figure out how to do it. And I sat in there, like still recovering. I sat there and like would just listen to beats for hours. Like I sat there all day because like I couldn't walk, so like I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't drive. Like well, I didn't have my license yet at that time, but like I wouldn't be able to drive anyways. I couldn't leave the house, so I would just stay in the house and listen to beats all day, like for like 8 hours straight. I just listened to beats all day and tried to like figure out how to write again, because like it was like my brain couldn't figure it out, like how to do it, because like writing for me is kind of like a complex process. Like it's not that easy to do, and to like find that inspiration and then like draw from it and be able to like form like structured words and structured bars is like, to me is kind of like an intricate process. It's not that simple. And my music went from kind of being like abstract at first, while I was kind of like, what I deem like a period where I was like kind of reteaching myself how to write and like figuring out like what I wanted my sound to be. But like I really became Keys like in that time. Like it was very, it was very much centered around like real life experiences, and like, I'd have bars about friends and like people that I'd met that like had an impact on me, and my music became very much centered around that. I feel like that became like a noticeable central point in my music. It became like half like abstract rap, kind of just like relaxing, let your mind go rap, and half like, okay, this is respect, this is loyalty, this is love, this is real life experiences, this is struggle, this is pain, this is heartbreak. Like all of those things, if you put that in a blender, was like, that's real to me. Putting like real emotion on the table, putting real pain and saying how you feel, that's real. You know what I mean? And that's why like, I have a song, Say Real, which is like which is my biggest song ever, statistically, numbers wise, my biggest song ever. And like that song is centered around that. Like if I'm having a real conversation with you, like how come you're not looking me in the eye? How come you're not like taking me seriously? Because the things I say, I mean. Or that one thing I feel like is probably like the biggest central point in my music. It's just real. Like I said, respect, loyalty, love, heartbreak, generosity, like all those are like themes in my music.
Really happy to see that you're okay and that you're back here and with us still. I mean, that's it sounds like quite a scary experience to have to go through that. And I mean, like, what was that time like for you? I mean, like, you were mentioning you were really like embedded in listening to beats and trying to like teach yourself how to write again. But like, where was your mindset at that point? Like what was like what really changed for you in that moment? Because like I said, that's a life or death situation, right? And not a lot of people have been through something like that. So like, I mean, just talk to me, like, what were you feeling like in those moments?
There's a lot of it that I don't remember. There's a lot of that I really don't remember. I mean, there's like bits and pieces of it that I can like, extract. But I'd say just like, the afterwards experience, like, just like recovering and stuff like that, I feel like was very humbling. And that was a very humbling experience. It was very, it made me appreciate life more. You know what I mean? It made me, it kind of brought out like my will. You know what I mean? Because you have to have like a certain amount of like willpower to be able to say like, okay, like I want to improve, and like I need to improve, like to be able to live. And it's a difference when like you can walk in a store and like buy like a candy bar and like a drink, and then when you can't, like when you can't do that for yourself, like it really puts like a different perspective on things for you. And that was one of the things that I said that I wanted to do. Was I said that to my mom. Like I was in the car because, like I said, I didn't have my license yet. But even if I had it, there was no way I was going to be able to drive, because the state that I was in, I was blind in one eye for like a couple weeks. Wow. I had to wear like a pair of glasses. This is a prescription, but I had like a pair of glasses that had like a patch over one eye. So because it was all black. So I was completely blind in one eye for like a couple weeks. And I just remember saying to my mom at that time, like, that's one of the things that she was like, what are you looking forward to most? Like, once you like start to like get healthier and you start to get better. I was like, being able to walk into the convenience store and like buying myself a snack and a drink. I was like, that's like probably that. I said, that's the most thing that I'm looking forward to.
Interesting.
And it's crazy because that was 8 years ago when I said that to her. That was around 8 years ago, probably like this time. Actually, no, probably around this time 8 years ago I said that to her. Wow. And I still remember that exact conversation. That was exactly what I said. And I remember where it was too. Like and that's another thing for me. Like I have a very strong memory, and like I said, like some of those exact events I don't remember, like being like in the hospital. Like I was in ICU for a couple months.
Yeah.
And I was in ICU for I think like 1 or 2 months, and then I got out and then went to rehab and stuff like that. But as far as like the exact like experiences, I mean, like I lost like 50 pounds in like 2 weeks, probably. Jeez. 50, 60, actually maybe even more than that, maybe even like 60, 70. I lost like a lot of weight in like a couple weeks. And like I was kind of like a skeleton at one point. Like it like hurt. Like I would wake up and like I would be in pain because you don't realize when you sleep, like the meat that's covering your bones, like it doesn't allow for that to happen because your bones aren't just like bare against, you know what I mean, the mattress. But like I lost so much weight that I was kind of like a skeleton. And like when I would go to sleep and wake up, I would be in so much pain just from like my bones kind of being like, just resting in that position. But it just felt like it was like meat and like the box spring, you know what I mean? Like you didn't feel any cushion there. Because you don't have anything, you don't have much, it's kind of like a dark, it's dreary kind of topic, but but yeah, so like, I had to relearn how to walk, teach myself how to write. I mean, I couldn't sleep most nights, I lost a lot of weight. I was blind in one eye for a couple of weeks, and balance and coordination is like the main, balance, coordination, and like fine motor skills, which is like moving your fingers. Like those are some of like the primary functions of the area of the brain that I had the injury in. And I don't know how much you want me to dive into this, or if that was the answer you were looking for.
As much as you would like, man. That's just it's absolutely however much you would prefer.
All right, yeah, no, I don't want to. It's not that I don't want to. I didn't know if I was going off course.
Nope, you're not at all. This is like a good this is like an important conversation. So. Okay,
cool. I mean, I had an AVM, so it's an arteriovenous malformation.
Okay.
So I had 2 blood vessels wrapped like in a knot, basically, and they ruptured, and I had bleeding inside my brain.
Wow.
So that's how I had that, and that's how that happened to me. And basically, when I first had that, like I remember before, like the actual like surgery, and like shortly after that, like I remember like before and after. Before, like I had pain like everywhere in my head. I was out to eat, and it was like all of a sudden I was like, I ate, like those restaurants they cook in front of you, like the hibachi.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, it felt like I was like really sick to my stomach, like I was gonna throw up. And I went to I was like, all right, I'll be right back. I went to the bathroom, and I couldn't, like nothing happened. Like nothing came out. I went to go. I was like, oh, I'm gonna throw up. Like nothing came out. So I was like, okay, that's weird. I stood up. I got out the stall, look in the mirror. I saw like so many of me in the mirror. Like there was like 8, 9, 10, 12. Like I was everywhere in the mirror. I was like, oh man, like that was crazy. So then I was like, damn, like something's wrong here. So I left the bathroom, and it was like, I see like waiters and waitresses like going back and forth in the restaurant, because it's kind of like a busy place. And it felt like it was like light speed. Like the way they were moving, like I felt like I was so like unsteady, like walking through these people, that I like, you ever see like that meme of Mr. Krabs, like when he's like this and there's like mad people? That's how I felt. Like that's a funny meme, but like that's like literally how I can best describe it. Like when I was looking at these people, like it looked like lights flashing, like the way they were walking past me. Like it was really strange. But like I'm walking through these people, and then I sit down. I like fell into the chair. Like I could feel myself getting like less balance as I like by the second, and then I like fall into the chair, and then they're like, oh, are you okay? And then I was, I'm with my dad and some of my family. And they're like, are you okay? And I'm like, no, I just like feel like really off. Like I thought I was gonna throw up. I didn't. I saw like so many of myself in the mirror, and I feel really like disoriented. And then so they thought I was getting like there's those times they squirt you like the sake or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. I was going like this all the time, and I think that's actually what caused it. The rupture was me tilting my head like this when I was getting the sake, because it was literally right after that happened that I started feeling the symptoms. And when all that started was right after I kept tilting my head, because he kept going like side to side on the table, and then like he'd squirt them some, then me, then them, then me. And I kept tilting my head back to catch it. And then it was right after he finished doing that I started feeling all the symptoms. So my father thought that like, oh, like he thought maybe like I got like the alcoholic one because of the symptoms I was feeling. But then when we left the restaurant, it was like I was trying to explain to them what I felt like. They're like, oh, what do you feel like? What do you feel like? Because like everybody was kind of in a panic at this point, and I was trying to explain it to them, and then all of a sudden, like my speech was gone, and it was like the things that I was saying, like I could still like my thoughts were still there, like I could think of what I was saying, but like the words that were coming out that I thought that I was trying to say was just like all jumbled, like I wasn't like. Wow. I wasn't like connecting like words anymore. Like it was just like it wasn't even English. It was you know what I mean? It was like alphabet soup like that was like coming out. So like my speech was pretty much gone, and they were like, all right, like this is like that was very alarming, you know, because then shortly after that, like I really couldn't walk on my own. Like my balance was completely gone. I couldn't even stand up. So like they were pretty much like holding me, like, and then I was leaving, and like we get to the car, and then. You know, I pretty much like I was throwing up like on the side of the highway after. I remember we were in an Escalade, and I didn't want to throw up in the Escalade. Like how crazy is that? Like I'm over here literally dying.
Literally.
And like I didn't want to, and that was the thought that came in my head was, oh, let me not throw up in the Escalade while I was literally dying. I went like this and like covered it. Like I literally like started to, and I like blocked it. And then it was like in my hand, I like jumped out of the car and like would just like everything like on the side of the highway. And then they're like, all right, this is like really bad. We need to go get to a hospital down the street. They're like, okay, da-da-da. Like it was like my memory started to fade at this point. Like I feel like I wasn't like seeing things. Like it was almost like everything was so dim, and like I really wasn't. It was really weird. It was almost like my body was shutting down. You know, like things were like not seeming right to me. Like it was almost like everything was like super bright, you know, and I wasn't like seeing the full picture. But like I'm in the hospital bed, and they're like, we can't, you know, they find out we can't do the surgery here. You have to go. They were like, if you take an ambulance, you're not going to make it. Like you don't have that much time. Like ambulance ride from here A to B, you know, I was in Brockton, Mass, and I had to go to Boston, Mass. You know, that's about like a 30-minute drive at least, even with no traffic. So I got flown in a helicopter. I got flown in a helicopter to MGH to get the surgery. So I think the helicopter ride was like less than 10 minutes. Like it was like single digit, like, you know, like maybe 7 to 9 minutes. I don't know how I even remember that, but I remember them saying it. Like I was very much like in and out. Like I feel like I was very like my body was fading out, like my vision was, and I was kind of just like closing my eyes too because everything was so bad. Like my vision was so, you know what I mean? I said I was seeing like 12 of myself. Like it was pain like in my whole head. Like imagine the worst earache, the worst toothache, but imagine a toothache but every tooth in your entire jaw. Like that was what it was. When I was sitting at that restaurant before we left, it became pain everywhere in my head. Like the worst migraine you ever had, the worst pain behind your eyes, eye ache, toothache, but every tooth in your jaw, earache, face hurt. Like everything in my head was just like the worst pain you could ever imagine. So that was when we left the restaurant. We went to the hospital. They couldn't do the surgery. Got flown to MGH. They did the surgery. Then I woke up, you know, and you know, a lot of recovery. My mind changed and my body changed. I still work through these things today, but yeah, that's what a lot of that situation was like. You know, I hope that was enough.
Yeah, no, definitely. So I just like the story is incredible. It's just I'm like astounding. I'm like speechless right now. But then all I have to say is like I'm just very glad you're here, but also, you know, there's a reason you are still here, right? I mean, there's got to be a higher purpose as to, you know, like that could have went south so fast, and I'm so just like, you know, you have to be so. I mean, your family, your loved ones, all just have to be probably so fortunate that that it's still that you're here, right? I mean, I don't know what else to say. It's amazing, man.
Absolutely,
it's a remarkable story. It really, really is.
Thank you. It like that event like really influenced. It kind of ties into your previous question. You know, that's why I kind of was happy to explain it a bit more. That's why I asked you if you wanted me to go in detail too. But you know, so I didn't like, you know, go off course. But but you know, that kind of explains the previous question too. Like the reason why my music, like why the central point is very much on like, you know, real life experiences, like real attitude, like me being a genuine person. Like the amount of pride that I take in being like 100%. Like people say, keep it 100. Like keep it 100 is like one of my life mottos. I feel like I'll always be that way. Like because like I just appreciated that. You know what I mean? I appreciated that from other people when I needed it. You know, people that gave me respect, gave me loyalty, gave me love, you know, gave me attention, gave me somebody to talk to. Like, I needed somebody like that, like at a certain point in time and during that time. And the people that came to me and showed me that, like at that time, I feel like afterwards, you know, I question whether that's exactly what it was, but that very well could have been exactly what it was. That made me have that mentality afterwards that, like, you know what, I want to be this kind of person to other people.
Exactly.
You know, I want to be like a leader, and I want to be a lover, and like somebody who, you know, is genuine and loyal and caring and considerate, compassionate, like to other people, you know, because that was shown to me. So like, I need to, you know what I mean? There's this movie, Pay It Forward. If you've never seen Pay It Forward, you got to watch it. It's called Pay It Forward. Like, that concept is like something that I very much live by. And I watched that movie about 1 year after it was the following school year. So when I got out of the hospital, it was my junior year of high school. I was supposed to stay back because I missed too much school. I missed 4 months of school. I was gone from New Year's. So the day we were supposed to come back from New Year's break was the day that happened, and I was in the hospital. So that was like January 5th, 2013. I was gone until the day they came back from April vacation. So I was pretty much gone for like 4 full months of high school. The only reason I passed that grade year is because one of my teachers offered to tutor me, and she helped me catch up on a lot of my assignments, and she brought my tests, you know, and we took my tests and stuff, and I was able to pass in, you know, work, and that was great. But that too, like that kind of stuff, like the tutor, like that's the kind of, you know what I mean? That I feel like fuels like the person I am now. Like, I try to just give that back, and I watched that movie, Pay It Forward, you know, in my senior year in a psychology class that I took. And it's the concept of, you know, if someone does something caring or, you know, to show you love or such like that, you know, pay it forward by doing an act of kindness for somebody else. And then, you know, hopefully they continue that and it just keeps on going, because there's so many people out there that need help or even just like need somebody to talk to, you know?
It's kind of like the chain where like someone pays for you in line, and like the expectation is that the other person can kind of pay for the next person, right? They got like that whole like literally, that's more of a literal pay it forward. But you're right, yeah, it's like something good happens to you, like you just kind of put that good energy, that good karma back into the world. No, I love that sentiment, but also at the same time, I think for you, maybe I'm off base here, but it sounds just from talking to you and hearing you talk about this. Sounds to me like, you know, this was really a second chance for you, and an opportunity that gave you this second chance, gave you like a completely different perspective on life, and you were able to look at it in a way that you maybe wouldn't have prior. So, and it clearly sounds like it is, you know, boded well for you and gone into the direction of the music. And, you know, we've had such amazing conversation this whole time. I definitely want to get into a little bit of the music before my final question. But I want to talk to you a lot about your most popular single first, Say Real, and then I want to talk about your most recent one, I'm Good. But tell me a little bit about Say Real, because this song, it clearly is your number one song in terms of numbers, and just kind of curious on you know, what this song means to you and how it's maybe helped further your career.
Was around the time when I was working at Target at 100 in my bank on Christmas. That was the hardest, I know. You don't get it, you don't understand my stresses. I just struggled through so many times, but now the lessons I had. A couple moments that I was wanting to live again. Take for so damn long, I want to give again. Going through the motions that people calling me toxic. Wanted to talk to you, so I was searching for topics. I got to break it to you, I was going off the deep end. Now I'm smiling in the sun and making movies on the weekend. Yeah.
So a major theme in my music overall is like the past. A lot of my music is, well, I'd say most, probably like 95% of it is written about the past. You know what I mean? I don't really write in like the future tense much. Like, I don't usually, I mean, I write, like, I kind of go between past and present. Like, I kind of dip between past and present. But, you know, that song, Say Real, was just about, you know, was about like girls. You know, I've had experiences like with girls, and you know, that's the experiences that I have with people I tend to remember, you know, especially if they kind of like leave their mark on me per se. And, you know, the second verse was very much, you know, I had like a line or two about like, you know, a handful of females that had been in my life recently, you know, and leading up to that song or whatever. And I had like about a line or two about like each of those girls. One of them was an ex-girlfriend that I actually wrote my album Just So You Know about. That was kind of where I kicked off with that like theme of that verse. But that was the second verse. The first verse, you know, I started it off with a line that said, was around the time when I was working at Target, had 100 in my bank on Christmas, that was the hardest. Like, that stuff to me is like, that's like that pain. And like, pain is like another huge theme in my music, you know, like that realness, yes, but then like the pain and like, wanting people to be able to relate to something, you know, and connecting with people is like one of my like biggest hopes in life, like to be able to always connect with people, you know. That's how I relate, is like through pain. And to being able to express that, I mean, Say Real was one of those songs, you know, like that had that, you know, first line, second line, you know, was around the time when I was dating Alicia. We was pulling up at Copley, it's summer, we stopped for pizza, I had, and then like I went through a couple moments, and then I kind of went through past moments, you know, and I talked about past females, and that was kind of what that song was inspired by. It was just the kind of reminiscing on, you know, some of these times in my life that maybe were a bit harder than others, and just kind of taken from that and looking back on like how I progressed from it and what I've learned from it. And that's kind of a lot of what that song was just, you know, reiterating some of those points and just kind of reflecting on those times in my life.
And then your most recent song, I'm Good. Tell me a little bit about this one, the creation behind this one, and the inspiration for I'm Good.
What I'm trying to find's in a different bottle of vino. Keep it on the D-Lo, I'm busy fighting my ego. Got a couple records, but she ain't fucking with me though. Yeah, you see the vision, but where do you wanna be though, for real? Don't be frontin', you don't know how I feel. Everybody see me struggle, they don't know how I deal. It's like, see me walking right up to it, they ain't much to fear. Only one head giving hands out, I'm the puppeteer. Just stop playing with the kid, I'll be on it, just give me a couple hours. I'll be gone about the morning, saying I'm the lil homie, I'm a giant, I've been dormant. You've been watching from the bleachers while you speak on my performance. I just tell it how it is, I don't never do bravado. See me posted with the realest, it's just me and the Moscato. Since a young and been a leader, I ain't never one to follow. Fake calling, I ain't answer, let me hit you up tomorrow.
Okay, so that song was, I wrote that like during last summer, so summer 2020 was like mostly where I wrote and recorded that song. Well, a lot of the recording was like in the fall and winter too, because I was like really like, I put a lot into like the editing and wanting my vocals to be, you know, mastered to like exactly where I wanted. And, you know, I spend a lot of time in the studio just trying to like perfect the sound of the song, you know, and like create with ideas. But, you know, I'm Good, to answer your question, was mostly written. That was during a time when I was, you know, in a really good place. I was in a really good climate. I was in a really happy place. You know, I'd just bought a new car, and, you know, I was just really feeling great. You know, that summer I was happy with where I was at, you know, and it was just a lot of that. You know, I was very much inspired by, you know, and you know, that's a song where I was writing about the present. You know, that was a song where I was writing about like things that I was currently doing, you know, and sitting, you know, with a bottle, you know, writing more than I could. Like I posted with a bottle, writing more than I could. Like I say that in the hook, and like that's something that's like been prominent like for years. Like when I'm writing my music, like a lot of nights I've just like sat there and like stayed home on a Friday or stayed home on a Saturday, like when things might be happening, and just sat and wrote. You know, and that's kind of where that hook came from, was just like thinking about those times and thinking about like summer nights that I had like with some of my homies, like some of the dogs, and that was just a lot of where that came from, just like that mind state, you know, just kind of bouncing off, you know, all those recent like things that had happened, just like, you know, that happiness.
Absolutely. And then about a year ago, that where you and I are talking, you dropped your debut project, Just So You Know. And you explained that you touched on that a little bit, but I'd love you to dive into that one as well. Like, what is that body of work now that that's out, or it's been about a year or so since that's been out? You know, what does that body of work mean to you in your career?
That album might need a sequel. You know, I think it might need a sequel. I've been thinking about doing an immediate sequel to that. And I have to clip that. But
Turntable Teachers exclusive right here. We might get a Just So You Know sequel.
Yeah, it might have to be. I Thought You Knew. You know what I mean? That'd be the sequel. I Thought You Knew. But
I like that.
Nah, that's really that's something I'm seriously thinking about. You know, for the record. But so what it means to me, I mean, that album, like, just to be direct, like, that album was written about, like, my college girlfriend who, like, that breakup was, like, devastating. Like that was probably like some of the worst. Like that heartbreak was tough. Like that was real bad. And like I don't even know, like I had to just like write it, you know what I mean? I had to just like get that off because it was just like such a tough time. And like I was trying to like get through it, and I was like writing at work, like I was like writing, you know, everywhere. Like everywhere I was just like thinking of like lines for like, you know, for verses, and just like, let me put this together. And like, cause I knew I had to get it off. Like a lot of that stuff was stuff that like was pain that I was like going through, and like I had to get it out of my head, and like getting it on the page like really helped me a lot. Like dropping that album helped me get through that breakup. And you know, that album means a lot to me. That album means a lot to me because of that reason. You know, I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud of it also. But you know, and I worked a lot. You know, I worked very hard on creating that album, and a lot of it, you know, it was stuff that I just had to get off my chest. You know, and that project is like the epitome of like my I wouldn't say epitome of my style, but like of my like aim with writing. Like my purpose in music is to express myself. Like that's the reason why I do it. You know, like I want people to be able to relate. I want to relate to other artists, and like I want to express myself, you know, and I want to, you know, I use it very much as like an outlet, you know, and
Definitely.
Music has always been an outlet for me. And that's, you know, that album was very much that was I was able to vent a lot of the thoughts that I was having and put them into a song. And the fact that I was able to create, you know, what I believe to be, you know, some pretty good music to it, you know, it made me even, you know, more happier about it. It made me more proud, because
Definitely.
I'm like, wow, like all this pain kind of like had like a you know, a silver lining. You know, I was able to create this, and I'm very happy with the way it sounds. And I had a lot of people that listened to it and were like, wow, like a lot of people hit me up, and like it did, you know, even to this day, like people like, you know, talking to me about some of those songs, and just like, you know, I get Snapchats like of like people like going through some of the bars like of that album, like even like to this day, and it's like crazy. I'm like, wow, like that album definitely resonated with a lot of people.
Definitely.
And like that
It's a
was
relatable situation.
That's what it's for. You know what I mean? That's why that album means a lot to me. Like that, you know, especially being my first album. You know, I never dropped an album before, so that's also another reason. But I just felt like that album was the perfect like way to open up, you know, open that up. You know, that's the perfect first album. You know, from what I wanted to do. You know.
No, it's an extremely relatable topic. No, nonetheless. I mean, we've all, I think, been in some sort of situation like that at some point in time. So I'm totally not surprised that it's resonated. I think it's a great body of work as well. When I was going through it earlier this week, what was your favorite song from the album, if you had to choose one?
I feel like the song "All My Friends," I enjoyed writing that. You know, especially like writing the hook and like thinking about that, and like I feel like the lines I wrote in the hook, I'm really proud of. But I think overall, I think like the song Zone, or My Own Way. My Own Way, I think, is the closer of the album. It's like the outro. I like that one. Zone has some like live guitar in it. You know, we had some live guitar playing in that one. You know, my producer and engineer, like he plays guitar, so he's like, I could play some guitar. So and he did a great job with that. And you know, I think Zone is probably my overall favorite song.
Great. I like Zone a lot too. That's definitely a good one. And but yeah, definitely, guys, make sure you tune in to all of Keys' music. We'll link Say Real, I'm Good, and the album, just so you know, in the description below. So make sure you guys check out all this music and support this man. Keys, this has been a great episode. Thank you so much for being here, man. This was, like I said, so much fun, and just thank you for all your vulnerability and transparency with your story.
Oh, yeah.
And it's been, and also just been great to just talk to you about music too. We definitely have a lot of overlapping taste, and sure, and I'd love to meet you and your brother someday, no doubt. I think we would definitely be listening to a lot of music, hanging out. It would be a great time. But
me too.
Definitely, yeah. Once this COVID thing is finally behind us, which hopefully will be this year. But I have my final question before I let you go. You're not quite off the hook yet. My final question I ask every guest that comes on this show. Our fans know what's coming already. It's the dream song scenario, and I'll explain that what that will entail. imagine that you can make a song. I know that's kind of crazy to think about. I'm just kidding. You're an artist. Obviously, you make music. But you get a song and you can create that song with anybody, dead or alive. All right, it's your dream song scenario. So I'll structure it for you. You get a hook, so you get someone to do the hook, and you get 3 verses. So you get a verse and you get 2 guest verses. So you basically can get up to 3 vocalists to be on this song, and then you can get anybody to produce it. So who's on that dream song? Again, dead or alive, can be anybody.
All right, so this is one thing that I didn't get to touch on, right? But like the music, like I listen to like all artists that are like, you know, these are unsigned artists. Like some of my favorite, like all my favorite artists are people that, like, you know, a lot of people, they have a fan base, but like these are guys that are lesser known. They're not mainstream guys, you know what I mean? But if I were to do a song and want 2 other guest verses, if they had to be 2 different people, damn. I mean, some of my favorite like guys, you know, Ryan Caraveo. I don't know if you know who that is.
Ryan Caraveo. That was my number, dude. This is, no one's ever said this. I'm so pumped. All right, sorry, I gotta pause you. Ryan Caraveo. Okay, crazy story here.
You met him?
I did. Yes, I did. Met him virtually.
Oh.
He did a right around the Black Lives Matter initiative, like right when that was first becoming a really big deal, roughly about a year ago after the George Floyd murder and all that. He did I believe it was an app like House Party or some kind of app where basically you paid just like a little like fee. It was like whatever, $25-$30, and he would call you and like do like a FaceTime with you essentially. And all the proceeds went to the Black Lives Matter initiative and movement and all that. So I got a chance to actually talk to him, which was so cool. And I had a 10-15 minute conversation. He's a great guy. I went to his show in Boston at Middle East.
August getting started on my Christmas list. I've been thinking about you and I wanna go do something nice. I can't take rejection and that's why I paid a crazy price. If you ain't ecstatic, I feel like I blew it big time. I'm a little manic, I just wanna see a big smile. Nothing means more to me than what I hear that you proud of me. Acting like a kid because I never quite learned how to be. Peanut butter waffles when it's dinner time and I'm alone. Hiding in my castle, but the walls are made of styrofoam. No, there's no in between, it's either high, low. You know how to balance, but I know. I wish I could finally just find I know. There's no in between, it's either high, low. You know how to balance, but I know. I wish I could finally just find
which was in November of 2019. So it was right before the new year so like almost a year and a half ago. And in 2019, because we do year-end lists, we just had our year-end lists for 2020. And my 2019 year-end lists, Butterfly Boy was my number 1 album. And I had Peanut Butter Waffles in my top 5 songs. I think I had it at like maybe number 3. So I am a huge Ryan Caraveo fan. I'm so glad you just said that. That's fantastic. You just made my
day. I'm really happy. I mean that you know, I think he's incredible. You know, I think he's he's one of those guys who, like, you know, you put me on an island and like I can only listen to, you know, say like 5 artists. Like he's one of those artists. Like and it's, you know, if you were to really put down like, yo, who's like your top 5 like favorite artists, like these are the last 5 artists you'll ever get to listen to again, like he's one of them for sure. There's no doubt, because I think he's incredible. Like he is, you know, but you know, I'm sick too because you went. I'm hurt because you got to go to the Boston show and I was trying because I think it was just before COVID hit. He did that Boston show. I want to say it was like late 2019 probably.
It was in November.
Fall. Okay, word. Yeah, see, I found out about that show because I was like searching on like one of those apps. I forget what it was, but one of those apps, like if you put in like your artist to watch, it'll show you like where they're touring, and like it popped up Ryan Caraveo. I was like, no way. I was like, yo, it's at was at the Middle East or yeah, I think it was at the Middle East.
It was, yep. So yep. Middle East upstairs.
And I was hurt because like by the time I got to it, like everywhere was saying that, like, the tickets were sold out, and I was like, no, because I found out about, like, the day before that it was happening. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
obviously, like, he's gonna sell out. He's a great artist, but like,
Oh,
I
so
found
cool.
out the day before, like, and I still wish that I had found out, like, at least like a week before, because I probably would have been able to snag a ticket, and I would have went to the show alone, because like, I don't even care. Like, if it's a concert and someone I know is like out here, I'm gonna go to it. Like, I don't need anybody to go to it, because like, these are artists that, like, I listen to a lot of artists that people don't know. You know what I mean? It's like, and they might not want to go to the show, but I'm gonna go to the show because these dudes are the best. You know what I mean? I think he's like one of the best in the world. So like, I'm definitely gonna go to it. And he's one of those guys. If you want 3 guys, like you said, me and 2 verses, you said someone can get on the hook too, right?
Yep.
Does it have to be one of those 3 guys, or is it could be a different guy?
Can be different, or it can be one of them. However you want. It's your dream song. You can make it however you want.
So I mean, yeah, Ryan Caraveo. I mean, Whit Lowry, Cam Meekins.
Cam Meekins, that's a local guy.
I love Cam Meekins. And then Jake Miller. I love Jake Miller.
Jake
I think
Miller. I haven't heard
Miller's-
Jake Miller in a while. Huh.
Jake Miller, I think, is incredible. Like, his stuff is like, he's more like he more does like pop. I don't know exactly what genre to put him. Maybe like even he rap a little bit, but like
Yeah,
he mainly
yeah,
does
maybe like
pop music,
Pop rap.
And
Maybe some type of that blend. Yeah.
and I think he's incredible. I mean, like, those are all like those 4 guys. I mean, I would love to have on a song. I mean, I don't know like how to interchange them, or who it would be produced by. I mean, like, my favorite producer ever is Jay Dilla. So I mean, I don't think you can't mesh all that together. You know what I mean? Like, those are all very different like sounds. It's hard to like put that in it. It's tough, man. A dream song, it's really tough.
But it's a
I
dream
don't know,
song
like-
scenario. No. It's the dream song scenario. Well, they'd figure out a way to make it work. If it's Jay Dilla, it's Jay Dilla.
So yeah, I don't know exactly like how it would pan out, but I know like doing a song with like some like Whit Lowry, I feel like his subject matter is like very much lines up with mine. Like, I feel like and High Res too. Forgot about High Res.
High Res. Oh, that's another one I haven't heard in a long time. Yeah, you do
Yeah.
like some of the indie artists that are more have like the sort of smaller. That's not smaller, I shouldn't say, but they have like more the tight knit fan base from some of these indie artists. I mean, I love a lot of artists like that too. Like. And that's why, like, I respectfully as well with some of these artists, like guys like Russ and even Mike Stud, who's now just Mike. But like those
love
types
Mike.
of Mike is
Mike's one of my
fantastic,
favorites.
man. Yeah, and what he's doing just like to navigate the music industry. I was having this conversation with my barber actually yesterday, and because he's a huge Mike fan as well. And I just love what like some of these artists are able to do and how they're kind of going against the grain of what like the normally the music industry kind of calls on, right, for artists, and how you're supposed to quote unquote make it. Like, they're just kind of going against what all of that and trying to do it independent, which I completely
think it's
respect, and I think it's dope too. I really do. And wow, okay, so I really like that. Keys featuring Cam Meekins, Ryan Carveo,
Bro, everybody.
High Res, throw them all on there. Jay Dilla probably wouldn't fit for a producer for Jay Dilla, but screw it, whatever. We'll just put it all on there, mash it together. We'll see how it goes.
I mean, like, even a song with Mike would be crazy. Like, even if
Yeah.
I just did a song with Mike, like, I would probably like pass out. Like, I don't even think I'd be able to handle it. Like, because like Mike, he's one of those dudes. Like, right when I started writing, like, he was one of the first dudes that I was like, ooh, like, he was one of the first guys where I was like, ooh, like, I need to try this. Like, and specifically, like, if you've listened to Mike, like, since those days, like 2011, Mike Stud, like, In This Life, the first Mike Stud song I ever heard is called In This Life, featuring Loggy. I still listen to that song to this day. Like, it just came out yesterday, and that was one of the songs, like, also with that I said about the Shady 2.0 cypher, like, that's one of the songs that made me realize, like, hit me, and it was so motivating that I was like, yo, I need to try this, because, like, this is incredible. And
I love that.
And that's it. Yo, Mike Stud, all those dudes, like, that would be a dream song. I don't know if, like I said, Jay Dilla, like, I don't know how that would pan out with that, but he's my favorite, like, producer. I'm honestly, to be honest, not too, like, well versed in, like, different producers. Like, I don't know, like, that many, like I know some people who would, like, hear a producer and they're like, oh, that's so and so. Like, my brother is like that. Like, he would know who it was that produced it just based on, like, the way the beat is, and, like, oh, it's got the 808s. Like, he would know. But, like, I don't know that. Like, I'm not very well versed in my producers. Like, I like Ninth Wonder and Jay Dilla. Like, those are, like, offhand, like those are like probably my two producers who like I really like wrote to a lot of their beats. You know, when I was like starting to like create my catalog, I wrote to their beats, and like it was so inspiring. Jay Dilla has like that abstract sound where like it kind of can go with my sound. So if it was a producer, I'd like to work with Jay Dilla. If it was, you know, to get a couple guys on a song, like any mix of those artists is a dream song for me. High Res, you know, Whit Lowry, I think Whit Lowry's super dope. Mike, even just doing a song with Mike, crazy. Moosh and Twist from Philly. Love Moosh and Twist.
OCD Moosh and Twist, baby. Yeah.
Yo, them too. I've been listening to them since the jump. Like I listen to Moosh and Twist. Like even having them two, even if it was like three artists, too. Moosh and Twist and Mike, crazy. Like with keys, crazy. Like that song would be nuts. You know what I mean?
That's fantastic. I love it, man. No, that sounds like a good trip. I think you're bringing me back now. After this episode, definitely going to listen to some Moosh and Twist, going back to Run Back, Butterfly Boy, Ryan Carvey, High Res, Cam Meekins, right? These are all artists that I was listening to in high school and college as well. But I think it was perfect, man. You came full circle with the BET 2011 cipher with Shady. So I mean that's just so many great artists to check out, guys. If you haven't heard any of these, Whit Lowry's the one that I don't know super well. That I'm gonna have to also give a listen from those that you said. I know everyone else, but Whit Lowry's not one I'm as familiar with. So
I'd say Whit Lowry is like if you had to get one guy that I would like put him with, NF. I'd say Whit Lowry. If you listen to NF, like I would say Whit Lowry is like you could put him like right there with NF. Like
Interesting.
I feel like their subject matter is like in the same box.
Interesting.
You
okay.
know?
I have to give me a little bit of homework here, so that's great. But Keys, thank you so much for being here, man. What a fantastic episode, and this was really great to chop it up, talk some music, talk about your life experiences and your music as well. That's just thank you so much for your transparency and everything that you shared on this episode today. If you guys like what you heard from the snippets of the songs from Keys, make sure again you smash those links in the description. They're all there for all the two singles, Say Real and I'm Good, and also the debut album from Keys from last year, just so you know. It's all linked there. Instagram is also linked in the description too, but Keys, plug away. You know, where can the people find you and what platforms and all that, and go ahead.
So yeah, I mean, first of all, yeah, thank you for having me on. You know, it was great to be on and to talk music with you and a little bit of background. You can find me on Instagram at Keys Real Talk. You can find me on Spotify, Keys, Apple Music, at pretty much any platform. I'm not too. I don't have the YouTube thing figured out too well yet, but I got to work on that. you could probably find me on YouTube, but I got to tweak that a little bit. Mm-hmm. But yeah, definitely Spotify, Apple Music, like all iTunes. Most of the major streaming platforms, you can find me there. Like I said, Instagram at Keys Real Talk. And yeah, like I said, thanks for letting me come on. I appreciate it. You know, that should be having some new music out soon.
Fantastic. We'll be on the lookout for that. Be promoting that as soon as it drops. But once again, Keys, thanks so much for being here. This was a great episode. And if you're a fan of Keys just coming on to us for the first time, make sure you give us a follow at Turntable Teachers on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. We're all there. YouTube as well. Make sure you smash that subscribe button to our YouTube and our podcast streaming services. We are also on Spotify, Apple, Google Play, wherever you get your podcasts. So make sure SoundCloud as well. So make sure you guys go subscribe to us wherever you get podcasts, and hit up our website, www.turntableteachers.com, for all the latest blogs and news going on with our podcast. And once again, Keys, thanks so much for being here. And I can't wait to see what happens with you next. And we'll link up with you again very soon. So thanks again.
Thank you, brother. I look forward to it. I look forward to talking with you soon.
Absolutely. All right, without further ado, I'm Mike. This is Keys with the Turntable Teachers, and class is officially dismissed.
Turn